Welcome to West Country Wanderings and welcome to Barrington Court in the centre of Somerset, slightly to the north of the town of Ilminster. This 16th century built house is a rare survivor. It was actually restored towards the end of the 19th century. I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we do the tour here. Sadly, the house itself, or the inside of the house, is closed, but I will be able to, of course, show you the house itself from the outside. But the glory here is the magnificent gardens, and I'll give you a full tour of those gardens here on the channel today. I hope you can join me for this tour of Barrington Court here in Somerset on West Country Wanderings. After you walk down by that lovely garden border which goes alongside the walled garden before you get to the main entrance here at Barrington Court, you've got on the opposite side of the path this wonderful orchard. And don't these magnificent apples look really, really scrummy? Delighted, or tempted should I say, to try one here. Now entering the kitchen garden, and there's a restaurant here, and some of the food comes from this wonderful garden here by the side of Barrington Court. Look at that old lead water butt there. I think it's leaking a little bit these days, but it's still a lovely feature here in the garden. Terrific range of pears growing up diagonally against that wall. Now, running down this side of Barrington Court, or the estate should I say, you have some of these independent shops. This one here actually does Holland chairs. There's also one doing jewellery designs, A. Clark Designs, and a National Trust shop too. So behind me here is the former laundry when it was the Lyle's estate, and I'll tell you more about who they were shortly. So that was used as the laundry bit. It's now private residence, and just along here, this here was the motor house where all of the servants and the chauffeurs would have been polishing up the expensive rolls, I would imagine, to take Colonel Lyle's around the estate and into the neighbouring towns and cities. Barrington Court is a Tudor manor house, actually begun building in 1538, but building wasn't complete until the 1550s. After the house was finished in the mid-1500s, middle of the 16th century, it went through various families until by the 1760s it had fallen into disrepair and then was run on a tenant farming basis. All that changed towards the end of the 19th century. End of the 19th century, it was restored by the renowned architect Alfred Hall Powell. And shortly after it was restored, it passed over into the hands of the National Trust. Now, there is some dispute about that in terms of, is this the first property that became, or how should I say, became owned by the National Trust or not? I'll put in what it's argued to be between this one and another property, and I'll put the subtitle of the other property below. But you can argue that amongst yourself, but either way, it's certainly one of the very first. Now, about 100 years ago, 1920, 22, perhaps 23, Colonel Lyle, I do apologise in the video earlier if I said Colonel Light, L-Y-L-E, and his wife Ronnie took over the lease of this property here. It was a 99 renovation lease on the understanding, although a lot of the architectural work, as I explained earlier in the video, there was still work to be done on the inside of the building, and he took it over on that condition. He also restored the stable block that you saw there where those independent craft shops are there, and much of the land as well, and also the gardens, which I'll explain about further in a bit. Oh, that's such lucky to get another rainbow. I had one on the other day when I was filming in Stroud in Gloucestershire on a separate video, but yeah, that's a nice wide rainbow there, isn't it? Get capture by the side of Barrington Court here. As you can see, it's not currently open to the public because it's got scaffolding all around it and the roof is being repaired. Obviously that's an expensive project for the National Trust, but hopefully it will be, well, I'm sure it will be reopened again, and we'll have a look at that on a different time. Let's have another look at that rainbow there. Well, that's wonderful. Good to see that. Now, behind me here is Barrington Court Farmhouse. It's actually private, it's not actually owned by the National Trust, but it's still in keeping with the rest of the buildings here on the Barrington Court Estate, as I say, just north of the town of Ilminster. It's a wonderful spot here, and the weather, I had a lot of rain when I was heading down the M5 today, and just as I arrived here and pulled the car out before I came in through the entrance, it stopped. So, beautiful blue skies again. Bring out the best of the autumnal colours. The garden is not a museum. It's always been allowed to move forward. I see my role as preserving a changeless feeling in the plantings, but at the same time using more modern cultivars and introducing new ideas. So said Christine Brain, head gardener. Speaking about Barrington in 2017, yes, this is the White Garden, and it actually replaced Richard Jekyll's original Rose and Peony Garden in 1986, and it was created by Colonel Lyle's grandson Andrew and the then head gardener Christine Brain. Now, these buildings behind me go by the odd name of bus stalls. Now, you'd have a long wait for a bus here. That's B-U-S-S, not one S, bus stalls, but they're actually cattle pens, quite extensive. We'll have a quick look through. Now the building behind me is actually Strode House, it's not Barrington Court. That lies behind that, we'll show you that shortly. This was built in the 1920s and it now provides a refreshment food facilities here at Barrington Court for the visitors. We have an oddity here, I've never seen one of these before. It's a multi-sided sundial. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I think that's 12, isn't it? Separate dials. Does anybody know the significance of why you would need all of those? Is that because you can get a shadow on that no matter where or which side or direction the sun is shining, or indeed the time of the year? But that's an incredible sundial either way. Look at that. Wow. Now the character of these gardens here is down to the character of two women. One, Ronnie Lyle, of course the wife of Colonel Lyle, who took over the grounds and the buildings here some 100 years ago, and also Gertrude Jekyll, the acclaimed garden designer, garden architect. What in actual fact is that Ronnie Lyle sent some soil samples in some biscuit tins, some rusty biscuit tins, over to Gertrude Jekyll so she could see what sort of plants would be available here. And the two of them came up with these amazing designs for these gardens here in Somerset. Of course, they have been adapted over the years, nothing lasts forever, of course, but it is testament to the character, strong-willedness and the creative qualities of those two women that we have these magnificent gardens here in Barrington Court in Somerset. Now you may have noticed in the back of the shot a camera just talking to you about the two creative gardeners here. Camera because Colonel Lyle was really interested in photography. Photography had been around, some 70 or 80 years by the time this was taken up as a hobby by Colonel Lyle. But he had some photographs commissioned to the house, and it's really good. You can actually look through these and see some of the photographs that were taken of the gardens and the house here at Barrington Court. It's really difficult to photograph because the nature of the perspective just reflects a photograph of me taking a photograph, if that makes sense. I've done one shot of it, but you'll see what I mean when I insert that now. But yeah, it's wonderful to see these cameras, Victorian cameras in fact, or Edwardian shall I say, dotted around the gardens here at Barrington Court. Now these buildings behind me were built by Colonel Lyle actually to house his model railway collection, but because he got it stuck into other projects in terms of the renovation of this large Barrington Court estate, he didn't have time to actually go through with the model railway. In factual fact, they ended up being used as kennels for his dogs. Well, I hope you enjoyed the tour today here at Barrington Court in Somerset near the town of Ilminster. If you did, please consider a subscribe, hit the bell, and YouTube will tell you when the next one on my channel uploads. Also have a look at my Facebook group. You can also share photographs and videos there of places you visited in the southwest of England. Until next time on West Country Wanderings, take care of yourselves, look after yourselves, and I hope to see you on the channel again very, very soon. All the best for now. Cheers. Goodbye.